4 more women asked to be added to a federal lawsuit against former MSU and USA Gymnastics Dr. Larry Nassar for sexually abusing them, and against Michigan State University for not doing anything about it.
They joined dozens of others who are also alleging sexual abuse by Nassar, saying he used his hands internally for what he claimed were treatments.
Tonight, another one of the women suing Nassar is telling her story. She spoke exclusively with our Alexandra Illich. We go to her now live in the studio for more. Allie?
Lauren and Sherry, in the lawsuit filed on her behalf, she's listed as Jane Doe BMSU. But after talking with her today, I found out she's a wife and mother. She asked that we not show her face or reveal her name. It wasn't easy for her to tell her story today. She says it wasn't easy for her 2 decades ago when she brought her concerns to an MSU gymnastics coach. But she says she's speaking out tonight to empower and encourage young girls, women, or anyone who believes they may be a victim of Dr. Larry Nassar to speak up.
I felt betrayed by Kathy. And, you know, he said what he was doing was medical treatment and that he was doing it to help my back. I just told myself that I wasn't going to talk about it anymore because it was obviously me that was the one thinking of it wrong. I had to convince myself of that in order to, I guess, survive through it.
Did that bother you that you had to do that when you knew that it wasn't right?
Yes, but all of these adults were telling me that it was okay and that I was wrong. So I was, 16, 17 years old, and who am I to question these authority figures?
We've tried multiple times to reach out to MSU gymnastics coach Kathy Klages to ask her about claims that she heard about abuse allegations some 20 years ago. We have not heard back from her. MSU says it continues to investigate the whole situation.
6 News has spoken exclusively with some of the people suing Nassar. They're all listed as Jane Doe on the lawsuits. But tonight, one of those Jane Does wants you to know who they are.
Our Alexandra Illich is the only local TV reporter she's spoken to. She's here for you now live in the studio with her story. Allie?
Lauren and Sherry, among the dozens of women and girls who have been added to this civil suit against Nassar, you'll find the name Jane Doe BMSU. We shared her story with you last month when she anonymously reflected on the nearly 20 years of her life that were changed forever as a result of an MSU doctor and gymnastics coach. She says she was silenced and lost her sight of identity. Tonight, she's speaking out again to make herself known, hoping to empower others to come forward like she did.
You may know me as BMSU in the filings of the complaint, but my name is Larissa Boyce, and I'm calling all survivors of sexual assault or abuse to unite.
It's not easy to talk about sexual assault. In fact, it was far from a simple task for Larissa Boyce nearly 2 decades ago at the age of 16. When she says she was silenced by then MSU gymnastics coach Kathy Klages after raising concerns about treatments by former MSU doctor Larry Nassar.
All of these adults were telling me that it was okay and that I was wrong.
It happened in the 90s, and last month she anonymously shared her story with us for the first time.
I had to put my mind in other places because there were things that would happen that seemed really inappropriate.
Feeling defeated by Klages' actions, Boyce says it left her feeling embarrassed and intimidated, a whirlwind of emotions she carried into her adult years.
It really affected lots of areas of my life.
In the last several months, we've seen Nassar charged on the state and federal levels. Almost weekly, the list of allegations against him grows, and so does an ongoing federal lawsuit where nearly 80 plaintiffs are suing the former doctor and Michigan State University. 6 News has spoken exclusively with a couple of those plaintiffs. When we interviewed them last month, we did not reveal their names or identities. But tonight, those Jane Does want you to know who they are. Alexandra Illich sat down with them last week, and tonight reintroduces you to a man named Tony, who's the father of one of those Jane Does, a 15-year-old gymnast and alleged victim of Larry Nassar.
He was the doctor to go to. He was friendly, and we all had confidence in him.
6 News first brought you Tony's story back in February as he sat behind a white curtain showing nothing but a silhouette. describing the details of multiple doctor's appointments where he says his 15-year-old daughter was sexually abused by Larry Nassar.
When he would adjust her spine, he would move her underwear to the side.
He spoke anonymously that day to protect the identity of his daughter. He says his daughter is the same reason he's making himself known today.
She's a roller coaster. Some days she's sad, some days she's mad. But there's not a day that goes by that we don't talk about it.
We have breaking details of a new lawsuit against Nassar that claims the university knew about the alleged abuse for years.
We begin our coverage with Alexandra Illich. She's here for you live in the studio with more on the latest lawsuit. Allie?
Sherry and Lauren, two different motions were filed today, both seeking to add plaintiffs to a federal lawsuit against Dr. Larry Nassar. The one I'm going to tell you about names current MSU gymnastics coach Kathy Clagues, who has been coaching MSU gymnastics for the last 27 years. This complaint, which was filed this morning, reveals that employees at Michigan State University were told that Dr. Nassar was abusing athletes as far back as the late 1990s. According to the complaint, Nassar would tell the MSU athlete to take her pants off and then use his hands internally for what he claimed were treatments. It goes on to say that Nassar often became aroused while doing it. As you can see here, the complaint states that between 1997 and 1998, the athlete, who was a minor at the time, brought her concerns to Clagues about the treatment, and she says Clagues told the athlete she must be misunderstanding or reading into what Nassar was doing. David Middleman, the plaintiff's attorney, says this left the athlete feeling intimidated, scared, and embarrassed.
Kathy, the coach, actually held up a piece of paper saying, I could file this, but if I do, there'll be serious consequences for you and Dr. Nassar. Do you think that's a little intimidating? I do.
In a statement to 6 News, Michigan State University spokesperson Jason Cody says the university takes the allegations in today's case very seriously. He goes on to say, quote, if evidence is uncovered that an MSU employee sought to interfere with the criminal case or prevent individuals from coming forward, we will take appropriate action. The university will not tolerate any interference with the investigation. From the beginning of the investigation into Larry Nassar in August, MSU leadership has encouraged anyone who has a complaint against Nassar or any information about the criminal allegations to come forward to MSU police.
And what may be the latest domino to fall, the first known suspension that could be related to the Larry Nassar case was announced today. MSU Associate Athletic Director Richard Bader sent out an email this afternoon. That email reads in part, I write this afternoon to update you that Coach Clagues was suspended from her coaching duties this morning. While the university does not disclose specific information about personnel actions, I do wish to assure you that the team continues to have our complete support.
Our Alexandra Illich has been following this story for months. She joins us now live in studio to tell us about this latest development.
Sherry and Lauren, the circumstances in which Kathy Clagues has been suspended is unclear. What we do know, however, is that Clagues has been named in a federal lawsuit relating to former MSU gymnastics Dr. Larry Nassar, where more than 30 girls and women have filed complaints saying Nassar used his hands inappropriately for what he called medical treatments.
We continue our coverage on the case against Larry Nassar, and it's a case that continues to expand its reach.
Over the past several months, we've told you about what the former Michigan State University and USA Gymnastics doctor is accused of, along with the federal and state charges that he's facing.
And while Nassar has pleaded not guilty to all of his charges, it hasn't stopped dozens of women and girls from suing the doctor and Michigan State University.
There are currently 6 civil lawsuits that name Nassar as a defendant, but that list of defendants is growing.
Our Alexandra Illich joins us now live in studio to tell us about a new complaint that lists 5 new names to an existing federal lawsuit.
Sherry and Lauren, attorneys David Middleman and Mick Graywall, who represent a dozen alleged victims of Nassar, filed an amendment complaint this morning looking to do something that hasn't been done in this case before. Add 5 individuals other than Larry Nassar as defendants in this federal lawsuit. Those defendants include a former MSU gymnastics coach and 2 current MSU doctors. They include former MSU gymnastics coach Kathy Clagues, MSU's current director of sports medicine and performance Jeffrey Covan, MSU's dean of osteopathic medicine William Strample, Former MSU clinical psychologist Gary Stolick and owner of Twistars USA Gymnastics Club John Gedart. The complaint accuses all 5 defendants of playing a role in Nassar's alleged sexual abuse, whether they ignored concerns brought to them or didn't fulfill their duty as mandatory reporters. Now, because this is an ongoing investigation, MSU is limited in what they can say about these allegations as they emerge. What we do know is this. MSU says it was not aware of any complaints against Nassar until 2014. School officials investigated the complaint. Nassar was fired from MSU in September of 2016. MSU police say as of right now, he's facing more than 20 charges of first-degree criminal sexual conduct. He's also facing federal child pornography charges. Nassar has maintained his innocence in both state and federal court and says the treatments he performed on his patients were accepted medical techniques.
A woman accusing Larry Nassar of sexually abusing her takes the stand to tell her story, and a judge says it's enough to send the doctor to trial. Thank you for joining us. I'm Sherry Jones.
And I'm Lauren Thompson. We want to begin tonight with a warning. The testimony that you're about to hear in the case against Larry Nassar is graphic.
In fact, it's too graphic for children, but it's these details that a judge considered when deciding if there was enough evidence to send Nassar to trial.
A trial that could carry up to life in prison for the former MSU and USA Gymnastics team doctor.
Alexandra Illich was inside the courtroom this morning. She's here for you now live with the very latest. Allie.
The hearing lasted for nearly 3 hours as the witness described how Larry Nassar sexually assaulted her in his own home for nearly 7 years, starting when she was just 6 years old. As Sherry and Lauren just said, this testimony is graphic and not suitable for younger viewers.
I remember it was dark in that room and he was standing in front of me and he had his pants down.
I know that you were able to get Larry Nassar's personnel file from Michigan State, weren't you?
Yep, and here it is right here, Sherry. In it, documents show that the Meridian Township Police Department and the Ingham County Prosecutor's Office looked into a complaint against Nassar 13 years ago when a patient complained about a medical procedure. MSU officials say that medical procedure is similar to current accusations against Nassar, which claim he performed procedures without gloves and without medical staff in the room, which the university required in 2014. Larry Nassar will face 60 years in prison for child pornography and obstruction of justice, the first of 3 sentences he'll face after pleading guilty to a number of crimes. During a plea hearing in federal court this morning, Larry Nassar admitted to having 37,000 videos and images of child pornography. Without hesitation, the former MSU and USA Gymnastics doctor pleaded guilty to 3 counts, including the receipt of child pornography, possession of child pornography, and destruction and concealment of records.
How do you plead?
Guilty as stated, Your Honor.
Count.
Months of accusations and legal drama led up to that very moment. Today, former MSU and USA Gymnastics doctor Larry Nassar pleading guilty to the charges against him.
The 6 News team has all the details and is ready to break down what happened and what the future holds for Nassar and his victims. The story of Larry Nassar shocked the capital area and the nation.
Our Alexandra Illich has been following the drama for more than a year now, and she joins us with the very latest. Allie.
Larry Nassar has maintained his innocence in the state cases against him, saying the treatments he performed were accepted medical techniques. But that all changed today. Now, before we take you inside the courtroom, I want to warn you, some of what you're about to hear is graphic.
Count 5. Criminal sexual conduct, first degree, relationship, victim C. How do you plead?
Guilty.
In a packed courtroom with several of his accusers listening, Larry Nassar pleaded guilty to 7 counts of criminal sexual conduct in connection with 7 victims.
With respect to count 8, victim D, do you agree that between May 9th, 2014 and May 8th, 2015, you sexually penetrated victim D by putting your finger into her vagina?
Yes.
Nassar faces a minimum sentence of 25 to 40 years when an Ingham County judge sentences him in January.
For all those involved, and that I'm so horribly sorry that this was like a match that turned into a forest fire out of control. And I pray the rosary every day for forgiveness I want them to heal.
It was at this moment some of Larry Nassar's victims felt vindicated but disgusted at the very same time.
I think my jaw almost hit the floor.
I honestly think he did that to make himself feel better. I'm sure he wants healing and this and that because he does feel guilty about what he did. But to me, it doesn't mean anything.
An understandably callous reaction because to these three victims, Nassar's sorry was simply another skew of the truth.
He is a master manipulator.
These three victims continuously brought up specific individuals connected to Michigan State University for helping to allow Nassar's abuse to go on for so long, saying their inaction resulted in numerous girls becoming a victim when they didn't need to be.
Thank you, Jorma. Now, this guilty plea will lead to a sentencing, but that still won't be the end of the legal problems for Larry Nassar.
He's also waiting to be sentenced after pleading guilty in a federal child pornography case. He could get 60 years for that. In addition, he's scheduled for another plea hearing next week for sexual misconduct charges in Eaton County. And those are just the criminal charges. Nassar also faces a big civil case stemming from the complaints of more than 100 women and girls. Stay with 6 News. We'll have the latest on all of it as it happens. Well, speaking of that civil suit, a news conference was held today directly after the plea hearing wrapped up, where attorneys in that suit sat beside 3 women who claimed they were too sexually abused by the former doctor.
And our Alicia Bergio was at that news conference. Alicia, what does today's plea mean when it comes to the civil suit against Larry Nassar?
Lauren, Sherry, attorneys tell me that Nassar's plea today can be used in the civil lawsuit against him. But they say although it is one step closer for justice to be served, there's still a long way to go.
It was sexual assault. It is sexual assault. It always was sexual assault. This was not medical treatment. It was never medical treatment, and he admits it.
John Manley, Jamie White, and Stephen Drew, 3 attorneys representing more than 100 women and girls who say they were sexually abused by Larry Nassar.
How do you plead to count 1?
Guilty, Your Honor.
You need to speak up, sir.
Guilty, Your Honor.
A new week, a new courtroom.
How do you plead to count 2?
Guilty, Your Honor.
A similar confession.
And how do you plead to count 8?
Guilty, Your Honor.
Larry Nassar admitted to sexually abusing young women and girls.
Do you agree that between June 13th, 2010 and June 12th, 2011, that you sexually penetrated victim B by putting your finger into her vagina?
Yes.
It's the people, the culture, the society that is MSU that right now just seems to breed negativity.
For months, Jessica Smith has been known as Jane Doe. She's seeking justice after claiming Larry Nassar sexually abused her. Discouraged by how this past year has played out, she now wants the world to know who she is, with hopes of becoming the face of change.
MSU has so much power that, they hired this man, and I trusted that and believed in that.
I want MSU and USA Gymnastics to be leaders of that change. That would give them integrity.
Larissa Boyce revealed her name and identity back in March, with hopes to empower other women and girls to come forward like she did.
It's the silence that is painful.
She's speaking out again, this time to send a message to MSU.
We're victims and we deserve answers.
She believes MSU's handling of the Nassar scandal has been insensitive.
There's been only silence from MSU.